Hey folks, I'm back again, and can you believe it's already been 4 years since I set up the Fluval Flex 32 gallon, or the 123 liters. It's pretty crazy. This tank has been a very stable tank, especially in the past 3 years or so. I believe I had some trouble with it that first year, and I got a little nervous. It's always it's nerve-wracking early on in the beginning when you've got a lot of hair algae and stuff like that. I saw someone posting the other day that their tank was covered with hair algae and they're had a lot of trouble and trying to manually remove it and stuff. I really feel like I was right there with this thing too, but eventually it mellowed out, it evened out, and it's all nice and balanced. It needs some more fish in it though. I've kind of neglected to put more fish in here. Fish have been a little bit harder to come by than they used to be, and so and a little bit more expensive. So I've kind of had to tailor what I'm spending for what tanks. Or a species starts to dwindle out, I'll start wondering if maybe I want to swap it up and maybe put something different inside of here. I've really enjoyed having the little ember tetras. I've got a little spattering of some neon tetras and green neons and stuff too. I've got one that's really super old, from all the way back when I did a video called Fish by Mail, where I ordered some fish from Rachel O'Leary. I still have one of those in here. It's the decrepit looking one, but he's lived a long time, I think, for that species. I still have that carpet of crypt parv on the bottom. It's looking a little thin and stuff. I might need to go plop in some root tabs or something to kind of plop a little nutrition in there and stuff. I've still got some of the Amano shrimp that came in the TARDIS. If you remember, so long ago, I had a bunch of them that had crawled into this TARDIS aquarium ornament, and I just brought it down here and put it in, and they all came out. It was pretty cool. It was a neat way to transport, you know, a whole bunch of Amano shrimp. I've had a few people ask me about the settings for the light. Here's a screenshot of my settings for the light. I don't think I have, other than that, I don't have anything super crazy in there. Sometimes I think a couple of days a week I have it where the light will kind of act like it's cloudy and stuff. That's just kind of one of the interesting things you can do. So the light will kind of get dimmer and come up and stuff. And I set it for just a couple of days a week, just because I could, and because I wanted to see if I ever noticed. And every now and then I'll be looking over there and I'm like, what's going on in the tank? It looks like it got dim for a second, like something big just swum over the top. But yeah, it's just that setting, that kind of mimicking clouds and stuff. Something else you can do too is this has 2 lights in it. The second light you have to add, it's an optional add-on. I think it's pretty essential actually if you want to grow a lot of plants and kind of have the light split up. I think it's good. Now this particular light does a good job of growing the plants, and they're in the right spectrum and stuff, but they're so close to the water that I think the spread works out better if you have 2 of them. You can copy the settings from one light to another light, and I have had a couple of incidents where the app won't connect for a couple of days and stuff like that. So I've always eventually been able to work it out, and I wish I had more peace of mind to kind of make a video. I think next time I have an issue with it and I fix it, I'm going to make a video about how I did it. But it's usually a lot of turn it off and on again kind of things. There are ways to kind of like delete. You can delete a light out of the app and then make it discoverable again to come in. Overall, I like the Fluval app. I love being able to control the lights. It's like my favorite thing ever. The fish also really react really well to the lights changing. If you've got fish that spawn at dusk or in the morning or something like that, you can kind of control that, even if you had it on not so pretty a tank. I think that that's really cool. All that would be for naught if it didn't grow plants, and obviously it grows plants really well. Now, I've grown a very kind of small variety of plants in here, as I've got just like Anubis everywhere, but sometimes in a tank, you know, whatever grows the best is the dominating plant of that tank. I've taken huge chunks of this out and given it to fish club members and stuff. So I trim it quite a bit. I actually go in there and I'll just kind of like pull a whole chunk out and just kind of give more stuff room to grow. I'll take it out and I'll give it to the fish club. We all bring different things to our fish club, and then we draw names and to see who can go up first to the table and pick. And there's usually enough for everybody to go get some little free item to take back with them. It's pretty neat. I've been super careful with the glass as far as like trying not to scratch it and stuff. I'm more careful in this tank than I think any other tank I've been before, and for that reason I never use ever metal scrapers. Don't ever use those. If you care about the glass in your tank, they work really well, and most of the time they do just fine, but every time I've gotten a scratch in my tank, it's been from that. A lot of times I'll use old credit cards and some of the Skimmer little foam things. I can't remember what that material is called. It's kind of like magic erasers and stuff. Especially when I first got this tank, a lot of the criticisms were that the glass was really super thin and it was very fragile and stuff. And that might be true to a certain degree. I don't know how thin glass is supposed to be. I imagine it has to be kind of thin to kind of, or it helps if it's thin to make this bow shape. Another thing is people sometimes don't like looking at bowed thing because it sort of distorts everything as you look at it. I have to say that you really don't notice. In photography, you tend to see it a little bit more. And also in photography, like I'm just looking at it here and looking at it on the screen here, the nuance of contrast doesn't seem to come through. Like I'm seeing all kinds of colors and detail in this darker area that you just don't see. Like right now, like all along down here is just roots. Just tons and tons of roots and stuff from all this anubias. But the fish love to kind of run in between these things, and it's kind of a cool little hiding spot for them, so I don't worry about it. Other than maybe my crypt parv looking a little bit like it could use some more nourishment, I haven't felt the need to do much with the substrate. The substrate mixture and the settings, everything that I did to make that happen has seemed to work out well. I honestly don't remember even how I set it up. I think I did like the fluorite on the bottom and then probably some Amazonia or something on top, or maybe it was the fluval one on, I can't remember, but whatever I did has worked great. Up until right about now, I'm thinking I really should probably start using some root tabs or something to kind of reinvigorate the nutrients in there. It's really a pretty thick layer of substrate too. I'd say it's at least, what's that, like 3 inches or so of substrate. So, especially for Sean Peck 4 years ago, that was a pretty thick layer of substrate. I'm sure I was wondering if I was making the best decision doing that. I always wonder too, because I feel like, oh no, I've turned a 32 gallon tank into a 29 gallon tank. I got the fluval branded stand, which looks like a big black area on the screen right now, but it has worked out really well. You don't need a lot of stuff. If you don't have a canister filter, I mean, you could in theory put a canister filter on here and put it under there, but if you don't have anything else, I mean, you really won't. You'll have a lot of room to store things under there because you really don't need much. You definitely have enough room to store a bucket and anything else you might need to take care of this thing if it's like your only tank. One thing I did have to add to this tank to really get it to work the way I want is a surface skimmer, which I've got stashed in the back over here. All of these tanks that have the built-in filters in the back always have surface scum. It's like they haven't really figured out a way to take care of that, or it always seems to be kind of an issue with the all-in-one tanks or the kit tanks that have the filter built into the back. Now, as far as the filters in the back, I almost never pull those out to clean them. I just let them go, and it's worked out great. I still have a decent flow of water from the pump and everything, but and I do occasionally, I'll pull out one side and then I mark it so that I realize which side I cleaned last, and then I go pull the other one about 6 months later. So about every 6 months or so, I'll pull one side or the other out and kind of rinse out the foam and make sure that a lot of the debris is out. It gets really, really thick with debris in there, or, you know, all that stuff that builds up inside of those. inside the foam and those filters and stuff. But I'll rinse the media out in aquarium water, and the foam I just take over to the sink and I'll rinse it out the best I can under the sink, and then I put some dechlorinator in there to make sure I don't mess up the filtration altogether when I put it back in. Then I put it all back in there and I mark it so that the next time I go to clean, I'll clean the other side. Other than that, every 6 months, and of course feeding the fish and some water changes. I do about a 20% water change about once a month. And I clean the glass, usually before I take a photograph of it. Like even, I took some video, I've just cleaned the glass, but I took some video right before I cleaned the glass, and really, you probably can't even tell the difference between the two clips. It just doesn't get that dirty. And folks, that's all I got for you this week. If you like this video, be sure to click like on the way out, and subscribe if you haven't already. I'd love to see you again. Here's the video YouTube says that you'll like a lot. Do you like it? Let me know in the comments down below. Until next time, follow your bliss, keep a clean tank, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.